Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. Well, we are this close to first start on our Mark IV prototype. All right, this is the eve of the arrival of our car owners making their journey out here to Southern California and hopefully witnessing the first start of their Mark IV prototype. So what that means is I'm going to do a little catch-up for all you folks and show you exactly what we've gotten done in the last couple of days. It's been kind of a mad dash around here. We've got a lot of things going on in the shop, one of which is trying to get this car to first start. So I have not been picking up the camera. I apologize for that, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. So one of the things that if you had sharp eyes in the last video that you caught was that we've got all of our heat and sound mat on the interior of the car. But it is not the product that was originally purchased for the car. Originally, the car owner had purchased a pre-cut kit from one of the Factory 5 vendors. And we wanted to install it exactly the way the instructions had laid out for the kit. And that included putting contact cement on both the surface of the mat and the surface of the aluminum in order to adhere the product. Now, we finally got the contact cement, and I kind of let all you know in the last video. But when Mrs. IE427 came out to start fitting this pre-cut kit, it didn't fit. And I don't want to bash a vendor, but the comment that I used after seeing how poorly those pieces were cut was, it looked like a 5-year-old had cut those pieces out with a pair of safety scissors. The margins around the outside were all short, so none of the pieces would have fit properly. Now, in their defense, they give you 2 tubes of silicone adhesive to fill the gaps. But honestly, these gaps were just way too big. And to go through all the trouble of having to put adhesive on both surfaces to put this stuff in, it was going to be so time consuming for us to do this that we took the easy way out. There's no two ways about it. We took the easy way out and we installed a product that we're familiar with. Whether you like the product that we use or not, you know, that really doesn't matter. We have had really good luck with this. It has its own self-adhesive back. The pieces can be cut into more manageable, smaller sizes. And I think in the end, for us, it just works better. Like I said, I'm not bad-mouthing the product from Breeze. We use a lot of products from Mark over at Breeze, and you know, we're happy with nearly all the products that we use. Some of them, you know, I could take them or leave them. And I believe that this pre-cut kit that you have to apply, you know, your own adhesive down to the surface of the mat and to the surface of the aluminum was just one of those things that didn't mesh well with the way we build cars, and that's just the way it is. So you know, take it for what it's worth. If that's something that you want, and you know, with all of the sales material that you get with most of these products, you know, their product is the best. We don't, you know, the product we use, the Fab Mat, doesn't come with any real instructions. It's basically, here it is. It's pretty self-explanatory. Stick it to what you want it to stick to, and that's it. Roll it out smooth, and you're done. So, you know, I don't want to dwell on this too long, but like I said, I just don't think that the product from Breeze is a good fit for us. because it just seems to be more time consuming. And when we're building these cars, we just don't have the extra time to put into something like that we're not familiar with. Now, if it was something we were doing all the time, maybe it would go faster. But the other thing is contact cement isn't available in California anymore. The local authorities, the AQMD and what have you, won't allow you to buy contact cement in anything larger than like a 4-ounce container of it. And I don't understand that either. But regardless, so we would have, if we start using that product all the time, we're going to have to find an alternative to contact cement because it's not available here. So we got all the heat and sound mat in, it's done. And then I started on some of the ancillary type of systems on the car. Like the ground for the fuel tank. It's not something we probably need right now, but since I was here putting the fuel neck in and the clamp that holds the neck in place, I just decided to do my grounds. So I've got my gas tank ground run to here, up to the frame, and then that is going to go up to our Le Mans cap up here, and that'll tie in, and then everything is grounded. And I was asked a question. Was it a question or a statement, something to the effect that, I forgot that on my car, I didn't know I needed that on my car. The gas tank really isn't grounded to the chassis. It's kind of insulated with the plastic bumpers, and so the only place that it would really make a ground is at the fuel tank straps, and the straps are insulated with a plastic cover on the bottom of the gas tank. So you really want to make sure that you have a good ground between the gas tank, the chassis, and the filler neck so that you don't create any static while you're putting fuel in the car, because that can, lead to fire. If you go onto YouTube and, type in static gasoline filling, I'm sure you'll come up with, quite a few videos that show people just putting the nozzle in, and the static that is created from that is enough to spark a fire. So we want to be as safe as we possibly can and make sure that the fuel tank is grounded to the chassis, and the chassis is then grounded to the fuel filler cap so that we have no chance of any static building up and discharging onto a fuel nozzle as you're trying to fill your car up. So that's done. Then I've just been going around the car doing little things. So, stuff like this. We've got our charging cable for our battery tender. I've got a couple of lines made up for our 12-volt power source and our USB outlet. These are going to both be switched circuits. We've got our wiper circuit here ready to go when the dash goes in. I've gotten most of the wiring ready to go and plugged in over on the driver's side of the car, so that's pretty much ready to go. We got our lights in for our footbox lighting, so that's done on both sides of the car. We got the brakes bled. Normally I just dread doing the brake bleeding, and about 3 projects ago, I invested in one of these power bleeders. It's made by a company called Motive, I think, and it's just a pressurized tank, like a bug sprayer. So you pump this thing up with air pressure, and then they have different caps that can go on to your reservoir, your brake master cylinder reservoir, and then it just pressurizes that to between 10 and 15 pounds, and you can bleed the entire system in the car by yourself. You don't need a helper, and it makes it a lot easier when it's just you. Mrs. IE427 is very patient, and she's great at helping me bleed the brakes, but since I don't have to rely on her being here when I'm bleeding the brakes now, it really takes the pressure off, because if I just decide, I've got a few minutes and she's not around, I can bleed the brakes and it's done. Now, before this car is delivered, we'll probably do one more round of traditional bleeding of the brakes, where you pump up the pedal and then bleed out any residual air. But the power bleeder does just a tremendous job of getting all of that air that's in the brand new lines out. And one trick that I learned on, I think, the last car was that about halfway through the bleeding procedure, you have to push down on the brake pedal a couple of times. And what that does is any air that might be trapped within the pockets of the master cylinder, that action of pushing the brake pedal down will clear that air out of there and then allow it to go out of the system through the bleeders. So always make sure that, you know, a couple of times, if not at least once, you go ahead and you push on the brake pedal just to clear any air that might be in the master cylinders. Now, with the power bleeders, I don't have to elevate the reservoirs above the masters like I used to when we would, you know, traditionally bleed these, because I'm able to push the fluid through the lines and into the master cylinders and not have to worry about air pockets in there. It just does a good job of getting that fluid through. So that's really nice. Don't know if I showed this in the last video, but since I'm on this side of the car, I did get our panel mounted for our headlight switch and our hazard light switch. Now, the button or the handle is out. It's not in. I don't have it locked in because we're probably going to have it in and out a couple more times before the body goes on the car. And sometimes you just, I have trouble getting the knob or the handle out. There is a button to release it, but sometimes it's real finicky. You know, it only wants to come out in one position in its rotation, and it's a trick trying to find exactly where that is. And so I've just gotten in the habit of not putting it in until I'm absolutely ready to test the headlights and then make sure it's going to stay in for good. So it's in, that's all ready to go. We did get our ignition switch all wired in. Now, some of you guys that are building the newer Mark IVs are going to look at this and say, that doesn't look like mine. And you're right. The manufacturer or the supplier that Factory 5 had for these ignition switches is no longer producing them. So you're no longer getting the Factory 5 engraved keys anymore. You're getting a more almost like a tractor key. There are alternatives to that. You can go to what's that company that makes those? Pollock. Pollock makes a lot of key ignition type switches, and we've used those in the past when Factory 5 was having trouble getting their own switches out. And I think the one that we used has a GM style key in it, and it works really good. The only difference is it wires just a little bit different than this one. The terminals make the wires come off 90 degrees of the switch, and so if you've got some I'm not going to be able to say this. If you've got some space issues behind the dash, you might find that you have to rotate the wires on their terminals before you tighten them down so that the wires project out at the right angle and don't point down when the key switch goes in the position that it needs to be in. So I think that's going to catch us up for today. What I'll probably do tomorrow is after we get the car owners all settled in at their hotel and we've spent some time with us, I'll come out to the shop and I'll update you on whatever progress that we get done tomorrow evening. And then Saturday, it's going to be first start. We're going to kind of see how it goes. If we can get this thing far enough along on Saturday, we may send the car owner around the block for his first go-kart ride too, but there's no guarantees of that, so we're kind of playing that one by ear. But I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. Well, this is a case of things don't always go as planned. The car owner had scheduled a flight out here to Southern California from Texas, and when they showed up at the airport this morning, their flight had been canceled. They did what they could to see if they could book another flight. They got to the airport in plenty of time to catch the earlier flight. However, it was already booked. There were no available seats on the plane. So they inquired about a later flight. Well, the only later flight they had was the same flight that they were on for tomorrow, on Saturday, which would have meant they wouldn't have got here until after we already started the car. And their flight home was at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, so that was going to work. So we're going to go ahead tomorrow, and we're going to start this car. and we're going to see if we can't get the owner out here in a couple of weeks and possibly go-kart the car at that time, and maybe even get the car dropped off at Jeff Miller's. Now, that's all speculation at this point. I haven't told Jeff that yet, so we'll have to see what happens. But I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm going to show you exactly what I got done this afternoon when I got home. This was after I had already gotten the call and made the decision that we're going to start the car tomorrow anyways. So I'll turn the camera around and we'll take a look. All right, so the first thing I did is I went ahead and I added 5 quarts. So all 5 of these quarts have been put into the engine. And I said this on the last build that we did. I always try to put some oil into the engine as soon as possible, just in case. We don't want to inadvertently connect the battery and have the starter engage and start spinning the motor with no oil in it. So at least with 5 quarts in there, there's enough oil in the pan that the pickup will start pulling oil up into the oil pump and circulate oil through the engine. Now it's not full, but at least there's some oil in it. The rest of the oil, I think it's about 4.5 quarts, will go in the engine tomorrow. So just before we're ready to fire the engine, we'll put those last 4.5 quarts in. I've already filled up the oil filter, so I'm probably just going to put 4 quarts in, and then the half quart that's in the oil filter should do it. So then what I did is I decided to get the entire air intake system in place. So I brought down our intake elbow, our mass airflow tube and sensor, our air filter, and the hose that goes from the crankcase into the intake air post mass airflow sensor. So all these are the way Ford kind of designs the system. So I got all that in place, and then what I had to start working on was I think it's called the CMVV. So it's basically that variable vane intake manifold has to get vacuum, and it gets vacuum again post mass airflow sensor on the intake stream. So as supplied on the crate engine, it does not have enough length to reach our intake elbow right here. So what I had to do is I had to take the system apart right here. There's actually a fitting on the end of this tube. I took that apart, and then I added a piece of hose. This is 3/8 hose, and I wanted to make sure that this hose was emissions rated. So it has to say it's suitable for gasoline and emissions, because in certain states you're going to have to comply with all of the emissions that go along with the engine in order to get your Factory 5 registered. So any place where you're dealing with fuel hoses or vapor recovery or emissions, you want to make sure that that writing is on the hose and visible, so that any inspector will see that and allow you to pass your inspection. So we've got about, I don't know, a 14-inch length of the hose right there. The piece that was on there was only about 6 inches long, and was that rigid like fuel tubing that a lot of the manufacturers have gone to now. So that's in and done. And then on this one, rather than putting vacuum to the fuel pressure regulator, I'm going off the advice of a lot of the tuners that tune these Coyote engines, and we are not putting vacuum to the fuel pressure regulator. We're going to run it with 0 vacuum, and supposedly that's what all the tuners like Lund and a lot of the name brand tuners are doing now, so that the system has full fuel pressure all the time. Because when you hook up vacuum to it, it actually lowers the fuel pressure at lower RPM. So on the advice basically that I read online on I don't know how many threads, we're going to do it this way. It's something that the car owner can add later if whoever he takes it to tune wants vacuum to it. But we just didn't want to take a chance on this It was just easier and more effective to do it this way rather than have to tear all that stuff out later. So over here where we would have had our vacuum connected, I've got a 1/2-inch vacuum cap, and then there is a vacuum cap on this port right here. And that's it. We've pretty much got this thing ready to fire tomorrow, minus the dash. Now, I will, in the morning, put the dash in place and connect the wires that feed the dash, because we're going to want to see oil pressure. About the only thing that I cannot read through the OBD2 is oil pressure. I can see coolant temperature, I can see AIC, I can see, or IAC, I can see just about every other parameter of the car. But since the Coyote doesn't register a true oil pressure for the Ford control pack, it's basically just it has oil pressure or it doesn't type of thing, then it's not something we can monitor. So we're going to make sure that we have the oil pressure gauge in the dash hooked up so we can make sure that we get full oil pressure when we first start this thing. So tomorrow we're looking to fire this thing. I've got Anthony coming, and Anthony is always my second set of eyes on one of these first starts, and hopefully we're going to give the car a good once over, get the dash installed, and then hopefully fire the engine and everything goes perfect. We'll update you guys tomorrow. All right, it is the next day, and as our trend of things don't always go as planned continues, Anthony's running a little late this morning, so that's perfectly all right. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to see if we can't get the side pipes bolted onto the car. We've got to get some fuel in the tank, top off all of the remaining fluids. We need to get the dash installed so that we have our gauges, and then hopefully after that we'll be ready for first start. Listen. Oh, I should have fixed the tag. It is much later in the day. Anthony has made his way home, and we're in the shop just finishing up a bunch of loose ends. We did get the dash installed in the car. I don't know if you heard in either the first attempt or the second attempt starting the car that I screwed up on setting the tachometer. You need to, for any of these Coyote engines, set the cycle for the speed hut gauge at a half cycle so that it will read properly, and I hadn't done that. Luckily, the OBD2 scanner that we're using, the Blue Driver, shows tachometer. It shows a water temperature. The water temperature gauge that we thought wasn't working actually was working in the dash. It just takes a long time for it to register. But we saw almost an immediate rise in coolant or water temperature as the car started to warm up. This has by far been the easiest car to start, even in all the Coyotes that we've done. And I think the reason is that we ran the fuel pump and set fuel pressure, base fuel pressure, before we ever started the car. Now, we did have a fuel leak at the back of the car, which has been fixed, but we ran the fuel pump while we were setting the fuel pressure, which is something we started doing on Michael's car. I think was the first one we did it that way rather than doing it once we got the engine running. You know what? Michael's car, we set it after we got the engine running. So I think the first one that we did that way was the 25th anniversary car. But didn't forget this time about the clutch switch, so we didn't have to sit in the car, had that kind of bypassed. The car fired right up. You saw that in the first video, the first part of the video. That second start of the car was basically, we waited about 20 minutes to half an hour, let the car cool down a bit. We were trying to get any air pockets that had been like kind of stuck in the car because we couldn't get the thermostat to open the first time. We couldn't get the car up to temp either. It just didn't want to come up to temp. It just hovered at about 195, didn't want to get any warmer. And so the thermostat hadn't opened. We could feel the bottom coolant hose on the radiator, and it was ice cold. So what we did for the second start is we actually covered the radiator back up, which forced the car to get warmer quicker. And the thermostat opened, and everything worked perfectly. So I'm probably going to pull off the side pipes here in the next couple of days. We're going to pre-fit the body probably twice. I want to get the nose aluminum cut out for this one and kind of get it fit. And then I want to pull the body back off so that the owner can go-kart the car. We're planning on having him come out the weekend we take the car over to Jeff's. So we'll see how that all works out. But everything's kind of going to plan right now. I don't want to jinx anything, but everything's looking really good. So I think we're going to end it here. As always, if you guys are enjoying the content here, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.